Welcome to Season 3 of Hines On Air, a new space for voices with something to say where conversations are recorded and remembered, hosted by Matt Hines.
Coming at you from Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Hines On Air. Hey everybody, Matt Hines back at you with another Hines On Air, and we have got a very special guest for us today. This is an area and an issue that I think is just fascinating, that is politics. And there's nothing more interesting right now than what's going on politically. So we have an expert with us. She is currently running for the U.S. Senate in Minnesota. This is Marissa Simoni. So say that right, Marissa?
You did. Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
Well, listen, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. Well, let's just start them off because politics, I don't know. It's just fascinating to me. I see people get started. They have such great hopes. They have good ideas. And then I see them get into that political arena, and it seems like they just get changed. And I don't know what happens to them, whether it's political donations, if it's just peer pressure from whoever. It just seems to be a very interesting area. A lot of the people that Trump has picked, I thought they were going to do different than what they are doing right now, but they don't seem to have done anything they promised. So anyway, it just seems to be a very complicated, I don't know, just a lot going on with that. So we'll start from the beginning. How did you originally get involved in politics, and what got you interested?
Yeah, I'm a mom, and I just saw things in the community that I was like, you know what? Like, I'm either going to stop complaining or I'm going to step up and, see what I can do about it. So I'm curious, you said you feel like people change when they get into politics. What's the biggest change that you see in people? Because I've only been in it since 2024, and I've definitely learned a lot, and it's changed me in my approaches for sure.
Okay. I am mainly referring, now I don't know much about the local politics, so I don't know how much those people can sort of maintain their integrity or maintain their vision. I shouldn't say lack of integrity, but anyway, what I see is, all right, so Trump's giving interviews, and they say, why do you want to end the Russia, or who do you want to win the Russia-Ukraine war? And Trump says, I want people to stop dying. And I'm like, great answer. Thank you, Trump. Like, I just want to stop the killing. But then he funds Israel, who goes and kills 70,000 people. Now, I don't want to get in, I don't want to offend you. You might be on one side, and I don't want to, whatever. But he is doing that. He funds Israel, and they go slaughter the Palestinians. And I'm like, where the hell was that idea, Trump, where you just wanted to stop the dying? And I see Kash Patel go off about the Jeffrey Epstein tapes. And then he gets into power, and he is a tamed dog and will not do anything. It's just an obvious change on where they started. I was so excited because I thought these were strong leaders that just stood on integrity and what they believed. When they get into that political arena, it just seems they've changed. Like, they just, I don't know. I don't know.
Do you think the limitation is, because I honestly, until you really get up close with stuff and tangle with certain things, it's hard to see what actually is going on a lot of times. Because one thing I've noticed about the system, there's different incentives, and certain incentives are aligned in different directions. So do you feel that the system is blocking people, or it's a genuine lack of desire to follow through on what they do? Is there something about the system, the way it's designed?
I believe it's the system, yeah. I don't know. If I was a politician and I had this great vision for, I don't know, I wanted to improve the literacy rates of black children or whatever. I wanted to step in and really do something great for some area of society. I need money. So I'm going to go over here to this corporation and ask them for a donation. And that's going to help. And then I'm going to ask this corporation for a donation. And that helps me. And then I'm going to ask 50 others. And pretty soon I owe allegiance to a whole lot of people who may or may not agree with what I originally wanted to do. And so, yeah, in that way, I do believe that people they're stuck unless you've got, you're Elon Musk and you can really fund whatever you want to do. I do believe you're sort of pulled in different directions. So, yeah, I believe the system does naturally corrupt them to some degree. And I may be wrong. I'd love your opinion from the inside if you see that or not.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the financial incentives and the perhaps obligations that people feel when they take certain donations. Um, yeah, it seems like the other thing that I see with financial incentives is within parties and donations, it's almost like they're the gatekeepers to certain resources. And so, based on their system that they have going, um, they want to continue those resources going. And everybody does their business, and I'm not hating on it. But what's really important that I see is the incentives as they're set up, when they're also aligned with serving people. That's when it seems like we get that continuity. And perhaps that's where some of this mismatch comes from, is that people have these good intentions and then they get into office and it's almost as if the system, the way it's designed, blocks it because the payoff, right? I don't know. Do you know anything about game theory or the concept of it?
I've heard that, but I'd like you to break it down for us.
Okay, so I love game theory. Game theory is a mathematical model on how to make decisions. And you know the prisoner's dilemma?
Nope.
Okay, so two prisoners they're both arrested, right? They're put in separate rooms. And I'm going to slow down so I make sure I say this correctly. There's the matrix right here. If they both are allies and friends to each other, they both get a lighter sentence. If they both betray each other, that's the highest possible payoff for both of them, right? The most protective one. And if one betrays and one, it's called defect or work as a team, then the person who betrays, they take all, and the person who was good-hearted loses all, right? So there's 4 different possible options. Now, the highest and best option that you can do is both people do not betray. But what we see more often is when you're working with certain people, they will betray, and then that person loses all. So I designed a game with my son to kind of learn this, and the way to step out of kind of these lose-lose frameworks is to change the payoff, right? Because people act in accordance with what they believe their best interests to be.
Sure.
And so it's changing then. If you want to see a change in a system or framework, it's redesigning things so that best interests and payoffs change.
Do you think, based on the way it is right now, that politicians will get to a point where they will say, hey, let's stop fighting. Let's just be real and straight with each other and we can all win? Because I would love to see that. You and I could probably do that. You seem very rational, intelligent, and everything. But I look at first it was the Democrats, and they seemed completely irrational, and they were out to get Trump. They were going to launch all these indictments, and they were going to do everything. Now Trump's in power, and he's going on the rampage. And I would love to think sooner or later they would all say, calm down, everybody. Let's all just agree, and let's all win. We don't have to kill each other every time somebody gets an opportunity. Do you see them ever being able to step outside of the game theory I think you mentioned, or the 2 prisoners, and just work together?
So then I guess I would look to what are the rewards that they are receiving for conducting themselves in this fashion. What benefit do they receive? And sometimes it's a little muddled. And especially when people are emotional over the values that they have, because our beliefs that we hold, they really do matter to us and our feeling of safety. So when we're looking from a perspective of an emotional lens, whatever the benefit or payoff is up here, it's sometimes hard to see it. So what do you think to all the parties involved, the media, the politicians stirring things up? I see this concept all the time. Everybody's posting, impeach so-and-so, impeach so-and-so. And then 3 months down the road, nobody's impeached and nothing's coming, right? But everybody's, yeah. So what payoff? Let's just look at the impeachment thing. Because to me, it's kind of funny now. When I see it, I laugh. It's like stand-up comedy because predictably, there's going to be absolutely no follow-through. Because it's happened so many times. I scrolled, there was one local politician here, I'm not going to say any names, but back in November, she was saying, impeach so-and-so. Then last week it was impeach so-and-so. Totally different person. Nothing had come of November. Absolutely nothing. So what is the payoff or benefit that these people are receiving from getting people emotionally activated?
The conflict, you mentioned the media. Certainly the media thrives on sensationalism, conflict, and all that. So I'm sure they want something interesting to talk about. You mentioned the impeachment and stuff, and from what I've seen in the past, when they tried to impeach Trump, they knew they'd lose. But they've got this donor class that they had to sort of show they were being hard and trying to represent. That was what I saw. It was just, you got to at least show you disagree. And even though it's futile, let's just do it. So I don't know. I don't see. I see the politicians being somewhat weak. I see them being completely dependent on their donors. And I don't know. They're sort of just kind of puppets. And if they're not in there fighting for something, then they're not going to get the funding, or they're not going to get some sort of backing that they should. I think if a politician goes in and says, hey, can't we all just get along? Let's just play together and do it well. I think the donors who are saying, no, go fight, I need this bill passed, they're probably going to start pulling, or I don't know. I don't know if these politicians are strong enough to stand up like that.
So then donors then are, I would say, they're highly intelligent people, and they're, very able to recognize what the payoff is. So it sounds like what we're noticing is they're donating a large amount of money. If there's enough of a repeat track record of basically exactly what you said, it's futile. It's nothing more than, I'm going to give a statement, giving these statements, and posting it online for people to get upset. They know that this is the pattern. They're like, if they've built a business, they're successful, they're well enough to donate millions of dollars, they can very clearly recognize exactly what the payoff is. And the payoff is these futile, circular disagreements that there's got to be something more we're not seeing that they're receiving, because I highly doubt that they're just giving money for nothing, no return. They're getting something, right? What do you see is going on in the background that maybe we don't see? Like, this is like sand in your eyes. The statements are sand in your eyes. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
Did you see, he's done it a number of times. Did you see when Elon Musk was being interviewed by Joe Rogan, and Joe asked him, they were talking about stopping insider trading with the politicians. And Joe said, well, is that how they're getting so much money, is the insider trading? And Elon said, okay, I'm truly going to get killed if I go into this too deep. It wasn't a joke. He was being serious. Like, they will assassinate me if I really just start digging or disclosing all this stuff. So maybe it's financial information, maybe it's tips, maybe it's, I don't know exactly what they get. But it was weird because Elon was it was not like a joke. Like, oh, they'll kill me. Like, he was like, this is just a very sensitive area.
So that's interesting you say that. I have a degree in psychology. That's my background, from the University of Minnesota. And I also run a business. And one thing that I've seen in coercion-based systems where you are truly in danger is not when you back down. It's when you continue to be truth-seeking and hold a standard and threaten, in fact, to expose what's actually going on, right? It's the threat of exposure of and loss of control of the narrative, where you will actually, this happens oftentimes with domestic violence as well, where that if you threaten to expose the narrative or shed some light on the actual facts of something through a legitimate process, that's when you're most in danger. And it sounds like perhaps that's what Elon Musk was noticing.
Sure.
Because we all agree, right? Love him or hate him, love Tesla, hate Tesla. He has to have some level of intelligence to have created what he's created.
No doubt. I'm a Musk fan. I think Elon's great. I know he's got haters and whatever, but you buy Twitter. I don't think he bought Twitter for any other purpose other than to keep freedom of speech alive. I think that was his true goal. I think I'm a Musk fan. I know he's one of the billionaires and they're the evil people, whatever, but I like Elon. I like Teslas too.
Yeah, I mean, aside from a morality or money issue, like it seems like he's built a business that employs quite a few people and has brought valuable products, and different and innovative kind of products, and is focused on solutions. Oh, yeah, I like people
Doge, I
with
wish
that.
they'd have continued with that. That was a good thing for a while. Then it just kind of disappeared. I mean, it
What does
had
it?
his Doge department right at the beginning when Trump was elected, and he put Elon over Department of Governmental Efficiency, the Doge thing. Let's get
Yeah. So what happened? Because, okay, let's just go back to Elon Musk noted on the podcast. He seemed genuinely concerned if he were to go and do something. He, just like you said, had really good intentions going in. And then, I mean, we had here in Minnesota people vandalizing vehicles, disrupting his business. His stock dropped. His business was harmed as a result of I mean, one funny thing, people were out, this is not illegal, they were out line dancing in front of Teslas so the customers couldn't come in and they were disrupted. I mean, it's kind of funny and silly, but at the same time, if that were me, and probably if that were most people and that were our business and our livelihood, and we had employees depending on us for their families and livelihood, we might think twice before just barreling ahead.
yeah, yeah. That was a shame. It shows how easily I think Americans are manipulated, because that was a lot of the anti-Musk people were just, he's controlling it. Why is this person in making these decisions in our government? Why is he controlling our money and getting access to all this information? Like, I don't know. I didn't see it as that evil. I saw him. It's not like he's making money off this gig. He's just going there trying to find where there's waste, fraud, and abuse. Like, to me, it wasn't any more than that. He was just genuinely trying to do a good thing. Maybe I'm naive, but that's what I saw.
He made one comment, I think when he started, I forget what, did he start PayPal? I don't want to misquote him.
He's part of it. There were like 11 of them. They call it the PayPal Mafia, and he was a part of it.
Okay, so when he was doing an interview, he was talking about when he started PayPal, he always knew who the scammers were. And they were the people who screamed the loudest.
Interesting.
And that kind of ties back into coercion, or it's the loss of the narrative. When there's some lie or deception that's threatened to be uncovered, you see this huge reaction. And that's when you, if you are exposing it, actually become the target. So it sounds like we're kind of noticing some different layers here to why even Kash Patel, so what was that photo of him, his before and then after? He's just like absolutely wide-eyed. Did you see that one going around the internet?
Nah.
Yeah, they're like, the photo is, what did he see? It's like the fate, like, you know, if you're like wide-eyed like a deer in the headlights, there's some photo of him like that.
Wow. I know. I hadn't seen it. I'm sure that's happened. Something drastic has had to have happened to change them that much. To write a book and try to expose the people who were being the corruption. He was heavily attacked. I mean, I think Cash went and reported some of the corruption in the government, and because he reported it, they then investigated him. So he's seen it, like he's lived it. And I would think somebody who with that kind of an experience would be steadfast in their mission to root out corruption. And he seems to just been like, now he's just, I don't know, they just got him in line.
So it sounds like what you've described is the payoff for standing up to corruption are resources, and huge and heavy amounts of resources. This is just what you've described as a situation deployed to get you to be quiet and back down when you threaten to expose the narrative, or just even use due process to look at the facts, right? If you say, hey, let's just take a look at the facts, right? That's neutral. In a court system, right? If you ask for discovery, let's just look at the facts. And if it seems like there could be quite a bit of concern if someone doesn't want the facts to see the light of day.
For sure. I think you're right. The people who are screaming the loudest, or when you quoted Elon, the people who scream the loudest have the most to hide. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see like a lot of people who really do truly want to help. And they're here in Minnesota, even with, I guess I have to say alleged fraud and everything that was going on. There were people who've been working within all levels of government who I've talked to who have been speaking up for a very long time about the things that they saw and these are highly intelligent, well-educated business owners and people just like, even if you're not highly educated, there's some things that if you just have common sense, you can see. And nobody's listening to these people. So from a payoff perspective, why do you think that might be?
Well, the decision for at whatever level has been made. I don't think they're looking for more truth. Like, it's been made. So all the truth can just go up and bounce right back off, I would imagine. Whoever's in charge has decided on one course, and truth be damned. That's
Yeah.
what I would think.
So that sounds like we live here in the United States, right? Most of us would like to continue living here. And one thing in a lose-lose situation, the only winning is to completely leave. Otherwise, you'll be banging your head against the wall for the rest of your life. And unless we just want to leave a lose-lose situation, there has to be some way to work and massage the actual payoffs so that we kind of get to that win-win. Like in business, you want to find where everybody's winning. I wonder how people would begin to realign incentives so that everyone wins. And if that's something that's desired.
Right. I don't know. I think they're pretty trained right now where in order for me to win, this guy's got to lose. Certainly, in a perfect world, we would think like that because I do believe in that. There is that scenario and that outcome where we could all just be happy and it could work out for everybody. But they seem hell-bent on having to push the other guy down so that they could benefit. I was wondering that when Adam Schiff and all them were just going after Trump, and then Trump gets in and he goes back after them, and probably in these midterms, Democrats are going to take over, and they might just go right back after Trump, and here we go again and again. And I don't know when it actually just calms down and people say, okay, really, can we work together? Because they all brag about working across the aisles, but I don't really see a whole lot of it happening.
Yeah. I mean, just to bring from personal experience, when I felt like I was stuck in lose-lose situations, like for example, let's say you get sued. You're trapped per se, right? You can't just be like, I don't want to play this game anymore and leave. So you have to find a way, unless you just want to totally fold, to change the incentives that the other side is receiving. And sometimes with some situations, some people aren't necessarily even looking for a resolution in conflict, right? Taking outside of politics, but any people, sometimes what people are looking for is a reaction, and any reaction is their payoff.
Right. You think it's more of that?
Good.
Do you think it's more of that? They just want the reaction?
Some people are benefiting for sure from the reaction, and there's some, I think, like notice with Elon Musk, whatever his concern was that these people are benefiting from, that's whatever their benefit is that he noted, that he immediately felt the hard boundary and stepped back for self-preservation. That, my guess is, whatever that is, would be the payoff.
Yeah. I think it all goes back to money. Well, I could say Elon and Joe were laughing in the end, so maybe Elon didn't walk out of the interview with his looking behind his shoulder like worried about a sniper or anything. So, apparently it's calm. The boat hadn't been rocked too much to like upset everything, the natural order. But that's the question. Like, what would it take to upset all that? Because I think we see bits and pieces of the corruption. Epstein is a very easy and obvious one to see. Like, they are clearly covering for some very evil acts.
Yeah.
And I would think if we really started digging into that and seeing who all is connected and who all is into this collusion to keep the information secret, I can't imagine how deep it runs and how far it goes. And like, it's not like you prosecute a few of these people and all of a sudden everything is clear. Now, I would imagine those tentacles just go into so many different things. Because these are powerful people that are being connected. I mean, I can't imagine what all they're involved with. If they're involved in that, the whole Epstein stuff, it's not like that's the only negative aspect of their lives. Like, there must be so much going on that affects so many powerful people. I don't know. I think it's going to take a whole lot of something to really clean it all up.
Yeah. It feels like at the core of all of those things is people feel threatened on a level of safety, because if it could happen over here, it could happen to us, our kids, our families. And perhaps people are wondering if these things are allowed to happen, or we're not even sure what happened because we haven't gotten the facts have a chance to see the light of day. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like there's little bits that are being dropped of whether it's the Epstein here or there. So there's so much ambiguity that when we don't have the correct set of facts in front of us, it's very hard to formulate any sort of plan on how to protect yourself and the people you care about. So maybe on a practical level, how does the average person protect themselves and their families? Would you say that's kind of at the core of things?
Well, it's if you want to protect yourself and your family, you rely on a certain group of people in the United States, the government and everybody, to sort of be the final, I don't know, support system or protectors. But when they're
Yeah.
part of it, that's what's scary. That's what's disappointing. Because the people you really depend on, they're part of it. They're part of the problem. And I don't think all of them. You said earlier, a lot of people
Yeah.
want to do good things, and I completely agree. And I agree. That's the majority that want to do good things. They are not all evil.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So it's like the way the system has been designed, it blocks people who want to help or make some positive change from doing so.
I do believe that. They're going to have to be ready to risk it. Let me look at Thomas Massey, who's really going against the grain here. I mean, to me, he's great. Marjorie Taylor Greene was great. I really wish she wouldn't have resigned, but whatever. So Thomas Massey's fighting it tooth and nail, whether it's Epstein, whether it's spending, whether it's whatever. He's strong. And I don't think he gets funding from the big companies or from AIPAC or anything like that. He's his own man. He can make his own decisions. But there aren't many like that, unfortunately. They're just not. But I don't see it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he'll inspire others. Because certainly it would be easier rather than being just one, if you had a group of 30 or 40 of you to really come out and speak your mind. But like the AIPAC, the Israel lobby, I think they fund like 365 people in Congress, Senate and House. That's a whole lot of influence. So it was around there. High number. It's not like 15 or 20. It's hundreds. So you got a lot of influences.
Yeah, on the topic of financial payoffs and incentives, the very first time I ran for public office was a special election for Hennepin County Commissioner in District 6 here in Minnesota. And I had no political experience. I just felt, when you feel in your heart that you're supposed to do something and this is the one and the way, and you go do it. So I jumped into the race, and I've always kind of had this fundamental conviction that you shouldn't be able to buy justice and you shouldn't be able to buy public office, right? So the reporting threshold, was $750. So in my mind, I was like, let me set this as a target. Let me see if I can make it through the primary, because there were 6 candidates with less than $750. And I placed top 2 out of 6 candidates. And coming out of nowhere, having no political experience, nobody knowing who I was, and I beat someone. One of the people spent $72,000 for a local just county board seat. That's a substantial amount.
No doubt.
And what I found, the race was nonpartisan, but you kind of do have to select, right? At the time, I thought you had to select a side per se, for speaking opportunities, for access to voter information, for resources like that, right? And one thing that I saw, nobody expected me to make it through the special election, but I did. And from that point, there was 2 weeks from there till the final runoff. After I made it through with less than $750, the establishment support disappeared for a variety of excuses. And to me, that was very interesting. And I consider these people, if they're in a position of leadership, have some level of intelligence and some level of intentionality. So my biggest confusion at the time was, if we're this close to winning, right? Just need a little more push. And I made it this far with less than $750. Why are we not closing the gap here when we've got a real chance?
Right.
So you're noticing that there's a lot of people and there's a lot of interests that donate to them. And it sounds like those donations affect the feeling of they narrow the scope of the choices those people feel that they can make due to the donations.
Sure.
So I've always wondered what kind of impact that had on my situation back then.
Did you ever get a hold of any of the people that sort of abandoned you?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say they abandoned.
I would say bad word.
Yeah. There were some people, but it was certain people at the top who the excuse at the time was, well, you don't have a campaign manager. That was the literal, I've got it in writing. That was the excuse. You don't have a campaign manager, therefore we won't do XYZ. And I'm not one to directly confront people. I just kind of take note of the payoffs. And then you just build parallel systems to make those things irrelevant. Because to take something head on, right, is that you've noticed is dangerous for people. So you've got to find an alternate way to change the payoff, going back to that game theory.
Yeah. So what are the main things you want to change? Let's say you win the U.S. Senate. What are some of your main goals?
Yeah. One thing a lot of people are feeling is that the system, the way it's designed, is really unfair. And that's the primary thing, is making it fair so that the people's interests are also aligned with the system's interests. And it's just like business. If you go into a business partnership, a marriage, anything, and someone's incentives are this way and another person's incentives this way, as it scales, you're going to get further and further apart. And it's going to cause friction, right? They might be two good people, but their payoffs and their benefits that they're receiving are different. And at some point, it's going to break down. But any sort of like business relationship, anything, when I win, you win, it's frictionless, right? You just build and grow. So that's the primary thing, is kind of adjusting that so that people feel that they're treated fairly and the facts are presented to them and they have a chance to know what's really going on.
Is there any particular issue where you see divergent outcomes or agendas or whatever that you think you could, kind of bring back together?
Yeah. One thing a lot of people here are noticing is in terms of affordable housing, we're having property taxes increasing, we're having homeowners insurance increasing, mortgage rates are high, and there's a lot of factors that are making homeownership difficult to achieve. So it's finding a way, and that's one of the American dreams, right? The white picket fence, your family, you come home, you've got your dog, your wife, your kids, your green grass, and you sit outside and grill. And it's finding a way to create payoff systems that align with that so that people can kind of have that pride of ownership within the community.
Would you work with, say, mortgage companies, and like, where would you go to achieve those ends? Like, how would you start? Like, what meetings would you start setting up? Like, all right, I need the mortgage companies to do this, and I need the da-da-da to do this. And would there be a way to position on that?
Yeah, well, one thing that we see going on now, and I think is aimed towards making homeownership affordable, Donald Trump is talking about limiting institutional investors from purchasing homes. One thing during COVID 2021, when rates were really, really low, like in the upper twos, low threes, and so many people were working for home, so they wanted to upgrade their house. And we saw a lot of people getting outbid for houses. And when you're a family coming in with a loan, you're limited to what you can offer on the appraisal price. So they would be offering maximum appraisal, right? They'd been bringing money down. They'd a lot of times offer no inspection contingency. They were confident in their financing, so they'd have no financing contingency. And then they'd get outbid for a several $100,000 property by somebody paying all cash. So things like that, a lot of people felt like, hey, like I'm doing my best, right? Like what more can I do here? I just want to have a nice home, work from home. And so if we have rates come down again, mortgage rates come down a little bit again, property taxes in all of Minnesota, all 87 counties, they're increasing substantially. And so if we can bring down, we can't necessarily control the property prices, but if we can do things like reduce property taxes or find a way that homeowners insurance isn't so expensive, like not having high crime in areas, which drives up property tax or insurance rates, things like that, right? Just practical, business focused, make the system good, make it the best it can be, strive for excellence.
Play devil's advocate. I agree with what you're saying in that vision. I think it's great.
Yeah.
But if you tell the investors, the billionaires or whatever large conglomerates that are coming in and buying all up the property, how do they benefit if somehow we stop them and allow the individual to get that purchase?
Yeah, Donald Trump, it seems like he's tangling with that right now.
Yeah. No, I'm just curious because you said the goal was to get everybody so we all win. And I'm not disagreeing with anything you've said. I think it's a good thing, and I think I'd rather protect that individual rather than help that multi-billion-dollar company that's gobbling everything up. But if I was to go to them and talk to them and say, "Hey, this is in your best interest," also, I'm curious how we'd position it for that to convince that company you need to agree to this change.
Yeah. So that's the question. How do you do that? And with some of these things in problem solving, because there's so many facts that some of them are from a security perspective, not necessarily public information. So until you get behind closed doors and have the intimate conversations and really see the facts for what they are, it's really hard to design any sort of solution.
Yeah. I'm curious to see Mamdani, New York's mayor. Okay. He wants to raise taxes, and he says, I'm going to talk to the billionaires, and I'm going to work something out with them. And I'm curious to see how that goes, because he's a good talker. I think he's genuine.
People say he's got great hair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, he's a great talker, and I'm actually hopeful for him. I'm curious to see how it pans out. But he's wanting to raise taxes on the rich, and when asked about it, he says, well, I'm going to talk to them, and I want to represent them as much as I represent everybody. He talks well, but he's going to have to convince those guys to stay in the state and spend a little bit more on taxes. I don't know. We'll see. See if they can work it out.
It sounds like you're curious if his words and actions will align, and if they do, fantastic. And if they don't, there would be a question mark. What happened?
No, I believe his words and actions will align. I don't know that he can get the cooperation he'll need in order to achieve some of those ends. If he's going to have to raise taxes on a certain economic class in order to pay for the grocery stores or the free buses or free daycare or whatever, if they're going to agree to go along with it, or I don't know, because he's got to balance a lot. I'm hopeful for him. I actually want him to succeed.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It
we'll
sounds
see.
like he's one of those well-intentioned people who's trying to navigate the system.
It is. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of these like systemic things like checks and balances, like the 3 branches of government and things like that, they're useful for a purpose, right? They protect things from happening too quickly or from rush judgments being made. But it is hard to get everybody to agree sometimes.
It is. No doubt. Yep. Very good. Well, listen, all right, so you'll be running in November. That's when the elections will be held, correct?
November 3rd, 2026.
All
Yeah.
right. All right, so would you like to tell, where can people go to find out about you and, get on board, maybe donate? Where can they go?
Yeah. So if you Google my name, Marissa Simonetti, the first thing that comes up is my website, marissasimonetti.com. I've got a little more information on there. And at the bottom are all my social links. And just we're going to have a good time and just enjoy the next 11 months. It's going to be exciting. We're in Minnesota.
It is exciting. It is exciting. I think these round of elections are going to be, I don't know. I think it's going to be a big change. I know Trump's worried. So we'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
Marissa, it has been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for your time, for your experience,
Yeah.
for your perspectives. It's been a very good conversation.
This has been fun. I can tell you're a thinker, and I love connecting with people who think.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You too. You too. And I wish you the best. I wish you the best with your campaign. Yeah, I hope
Thank
you can get in there and make a positive change. Lord knows we need more people like you involved in the government. So best of luck to you, okay?
Takes all of us, everybody, just like you said.
Yes, ma'am. All right,
All
everybody.
right.
Well, listen, I hope you have enjoyed the show. This has been another Hines On Air. Please remember, comment, react, tell us what you think. Did you agree? Did you disagree? But leave us a comment. Share this with your friends, like it, and we will see you on the next Hines On Air.